Today in the physics lab, we're going to be looking at Flashlight Lab Part 2. Just like in Part 1, we're going to be using a simulation to do the work for us if this is a virtual lab. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I have the lab pulled up already. I'm going to simply scroll down and click on Virtual Lab. So in this lab here, the difference is what we're going to do is we're going to take, as it says right here, in your groups, you're going to choose two of the wiring diagrams you made in Flashlight Lab 1, redraw them, and label some circuits 1 and 2. So I'm going to use the same circuit that I used for Flashlight Lab Part 1. I'll leave the second one for you to do. But in this one, we're going to take those circuits we've already built, we know that work, and we're going to analyze them. We're going to look for a couple of pieces of information. So again, I'm not going to go through every single step here. That's left for you to read. So if you look here for circuit 1, it asks us to find the voltage for the battery, the light bulb, and the wire, and the current for the battery. Now this one says between the battery and light bulb, between the light bulb and the wire and the battery. Let me show you exactly how to do that. So again, we've already clicked on the simulation. It's loaded. We can just go simply straight to the intro. Now here, looking at this, again, we need a wire, a battery, and a light bulb. And again, I'm just going to set it up exactly like we had it set up before. I'm going to connect this here, and I'm going to connect the wire here. Now, in the lab, it's asking us to find the voltage. Now, whenever we find voltage, it's often said we find the voltage dropped across pieces of a circuit, or the voltage gained because of the battery. We're not going to focus too much on the terminology here, since this is still an introductory circuit. What we do need is, you'll see over here, we can have a voltmeter and we can get an ammeter, or for current. So the first part we're going to use the voltmeter, and the second part we're going to use the current. Now voltage is very easy. You just have these two leads and you have to place them across the thing that you wish to measure. So for example, here it wants us to find the voltage of the battery, then we'll do the wire, or the light bulb, and then the wire. So to do this, remember that each one of these devices has two ends. So you just have to connect these to each end. So if I start with the battery, I can put one end here and the other end here. And it says this battery has a voltage of 9 volts. And that's what I would record in the data table. Now I can go back. And what happens if I connect it like this? The top of the battery and the bottom of the battery. Now in this case, it doesn't actually, oh, there we are, it gives me a voltage. Now you'll notice it says -9 volts, and that's because I have the wires hooked up backwards. The red should be positive, black should be negative. Again, we're not going to focus on that too much. And for this lab today, if you connect it and get a negative number, don't worry about it. Just write down what it tells us, okay? So if it has a negative, just drop a negative sign, just write 9 in this case, because in either case, the battery is supplying 9 volts, and we'll worry more about the direction and the positive and negative stuff later. So to find the voltage for this, again, just put the leads on either end of the thing that you wish to measure, and it'll give us a voltage. So now that's what you would place in the first blank for the battery. Now to do the light bulb, you use the two ends of the light bulb. Notice the red one is here, the black one is here. So again, it says that I'm losing 9 volts across this one. Again, I would just record 9 in your lab notebook. And then for the last one, I have to do the wire. So one end is here and the other end is down here. Notice for the wire, it says 0 volts. This is simply because the battery is providing 9 volts, the light bulb is using 9 volts, and most wires have very little resistance, and so we will record very little voltage used on those wires. So that's how we would fill out this first section of the data table here for these first 3 boxes. And again, when you do this on your own, you're going to have to do it for circuit 1 and a second circuit that you decide to make for circuit 2. Now let me show you how to do current. Now current using the virtual setup is actually a lot easier than in real life. So I don't need this voltmeter anymore, so let me put that away. So now current, I want to find the current, as it says here, I want to find it between these objects because current flows. And so in real life, you would have to open the circuit, stick the current meter in, and then close it. Here, it's a lot easier. We can simply just take this current meter and place it on the location that we're interested in. So this one here we have between the battery and the light bulb as our first part. So between the battery and light bulb is right there. So I'd come in here and I'll place it right there. And it says my current is 0.9 amps. So I'd write that down. Then the next part is between the light bulb and the wire. So I would come in here and find between the light bulb and the wire. That's this point, also 0.9 amps. And then the last one is obviously down here, which again is 0.9 amps. So I'd write that down. Now what you're seeing here is actually explained by different rules which we have not covered. And we'll cover those in class, but it's important that you do these experiments to see that these rules that we're going to talk about are not arbitrary. They're based on what actually occurs in the circuit. So now all you have to do is go ahead and finish for the second circuit diagram.